Well, to you longtime regular coast-to-coast listeners, you know Fred Bell. But those of you who are brand new to the program, let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a contactee. He was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and after high school, he joined the Air Force, trained to work on radar, and was stationed at a facility where there were numerous UFO contact reported. Following this time in the Air Force, he worked with Rockwell International and then as a consultant to various companies in the aerospace industry. It was during this time that he became interested in Eastern spirituality and studied with several spiritual leaders. He obtained a degree in alternative medicine, became a lecturer on behalf of the National Health Federation, which is an organization which advocates freedom of medical choice for you, the public. Here's Fred Bell back on Coast to Coast. Fred, how are you?
Hey, George. I've just had a little bit of a rough throat because I was up in L.A. and I did that lecture and stuff. Sorry I missed your lunch.
Oh, that's right. You were there. That's right. I was looking for you.
Yeah, I wanted to be there, but I didn't get there till Monday, and you were already gone. And then last year, it was so divine because you had the honorarium to Zachariah Sitchin, and that little guy, he just loved you so much. And,
oh, my gosh, we miss him.
Yeah, we do, and I'm sure he's in a much happier place now. If I were him and all the controversy that he stirred up, and after that luncheon that you presented for him with all those famous people, I think he was probably in heaven from that point on.
Let me tell you what's so funny about it. Of course, Zechariah passed away several months after that event, and I was so happy that we had that opportunity to give him that Lifetime Achievement Award. But this year it went to Daniel Brinkley.
Oh, my God, Damien's my old buddy.
Yeah, and Daniel's speech was, the last person they gave this to died. I hope I'm a little luckier.
Yeah, I think Damien, well, he's already been dead once now.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah,
yeah, he bounces back.
Absolutely. Do you miss the aerospace industry at all, or do you love doing what you've been doing?
Well, you know what? I excuse me, do I miss it? No, yes and no, for two reasons. I'm still connected with it. Gene Curcio is a good friend of mine. He was the founder of Emerstat and a couple of big satellite companies. And I still have friends there, and I still get, information from there. But would I work there? No. Had great laboratories to play in. Today I have my own laboratory, so I've been able to accumulate, through surplus and that stuff that I had. So, yeah, but it was fun. I mean, when I worked for Von Braun, well, first of all, when I worked for Scott Crossfield, he was the X-15 guy. That was over at SNID, Space and Informations Division in Downey, California, and I got to sit in all the 13 different Apollo modules because I was a checkout engineer on those. So I'd sit in the middle seat, and I'd switch all the switches. And that was fun. I mean, I was a young guy, though, Then when we got down to Seal Beach and we worked on the Saturn, I started to see the political side of it, and then it wasn't so much fun anymore. So I had mixed feelings.
We're going to go 3 hours with you. If the voice starts to go, you let me know.
No,
okay?
It's fine. I got water here. I'll usually go 3 hours.
Very good.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm in perfect health. It just sometimes when you talk a bit, it's like a singer. Sometimes they have to shut down for a week.
You're a holistic guy. You should have like honey next to you and all that stuff.
I do. I've been taking some oxycodone and a bunch of stuff. I'm fine.
Well, I've got to tell you though, we talked over the last couple days.
Yeah.
How many people have been sick lately?
Oh, yeah.
Coming down with all kinds of things. Yeah. See, this is weird. This is weird. I mean, I chastised the World Health Organization last year, Fred, that they claimed that the H1N1 virus was going to be a pandemic and, millions of deaths and everything. And, it fizzled out. It never happened. I think it was
well, that's
a
part
hoax.
Of the scam. Yeah, we can talk about them all you want. 1947 they were set up. Yeah, they're a bunch. That's a spin-off of Tavistock. And, yeah, no, that's what they do.
But now people are getting sick and it doesn't go away.
No.
And it just lingers and then it comes back. And
yeah, usually it's swine flu, and these were invented, in Army bases back on the East Coast a long time ago. But the thing is, they have different agents in them that when your immune system gets past so many genetic transmutations of dealing with the immune system, they reintroduce another virus that was not in the original bunch. They're like hidden viruses, and that's part of the science of the the eradication of the human race. So they have these hidden viruses. I work with a guy named Jeff Sutherland, who's world famous. He's worked on our Q-band project, and I've learned these different viral codes. It goes actually back to some of the early work that was done at the turn of the century when everybody was being persecuted. But yes, it's beautiful how they script. These things are basically scripted, and all I can say is they're scripted genetic design viruses. And they do go away, but you got to know how to fight them.
Yeah, absolutely. Your new work, The Inside Track, The Complete History of Science, and you key in on a lot of things that government is trying to do to us.
Right.
And it's worldwide. Tell me a little bit about what you've been seeing, Fred, what you're sensing that's happening out there.
Well, what I see is, first of all, I grew up as a scientist, a young scientist, and being, developing neurostimulation gear that was used by the CIA back in the 50s along with Stephen Eberbaugh. And that was my first taste of the government. And that's when they took over that stuff, the devices, the neurostimulation devices and the oscilloscope monitors that we did on the EEG monitors on the brain. When they took over that, they put a secret clearance on me, and I didn't even know what the secret clearance meant. And so over the years, I've had a lot of, that's why I wrote The Inside Track, and I was able to reflect on a lot of my companies, like iTech. There was a CIA-run company, a lot of CIA-run companies, and a lot of normal companies like Hughes Aircraft, and how, when I'd go into these companies calling on them as a consultant, say Hughes Aircraft had 5 different blocks, 5 different buildings. Each one has the need to know. But with me, I went into building 1, building 2, and building 3, and I was, advised of their project, so I got to see the big picture. And that's sort of how it started. That's basically how it started. And since then, I began to see, then there was times in my younger days, I'd go into psych wards in these hospitals, and sometimes I'd go to old Army bases where they were conducting, experiments on human beings, and I saw horrible things. I really did. And I can go into details, but that was kind of the overview of it. And then when I got over to the satellite stuff, and I was working in Autonetics on the ILS, which became Star Wars, then I got the big picture. And then finally, when I started to see these keyhole satellites go up, starting with a one in 1991 on STS-38, I realized what the big picture was. And then I talked to my buddies and got inside tracks on the different satellites and what they really did, not just Internet and all that.
Well, over the past few years, Fred, we've been getting information finally that talks about how government has done, secret testing over citizens, secret testing over soldiers.
Yeah.
And back in the 60s and the 70s, even the 50s, if people had heard this, they would have said that's nonsense. No. Government would never do that to anybody.
I know. The government has been so deceptive since Roswell, as far as I'm concerned. They have been so deceptive. They really have. I have seen it. I've been a part of it. That's why I wrote that Inside Track book. It's like you just have to confess. I didn't know. I mean, I was duped. I thought we were doing some really cool stuff, and now it's turned against people. And once I began studying holistic medicine and how the electrical processes of the bodies work and the auras and the frequencies, I realized that some of these medical labs that I used to call in that were CIA operated were doing the same thing, and I just wasn't paying attention to exactly what they were doing, but I was supplying them, monitoring equipment for the human psyche and all those kinds of things. So today I can realize what it's all about, and now I've got the big picture.
Well, you probably thought they were doing great humanitarian things.
Yeah. And then on the other side of it, when I joined the National Health Federation, it was started by Thomas Colson and Fred Hart, and they were standing on the shoulders of a lot of people that were persecuted by not the government, not then the FDA, from the 1800s up. Even some of them had patents because basically they were saying electrical stimulus has a great effect on the cellular structures of the body, and you can manipulate this in a good and bad way, and they were doing it in a good way. And, of course, up until the 1980s, the government finally turned around, publicly and admitted, yeah, this stuff's all real. And these Swiss companies over there in Switzerland are doing this electromagnetic pulsing, to clear blockages in your body that cause pain from sitting at a computer too long when you get that cramp in your arm, that kind of stuff. And you see, and these things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're completely legitimate today. That's the good side of it. Now, just realize the other side of the coin is not the good side of it.
When did this start to change? I mean, you mentioned Roswell. Was that the event that made government decide to be deceptive?
I think it was because in the first day, they admitted that there was a spaceship that crashed, and I got insight on that one because of my friend Clay Davis. Clay Davis, he was working with me at NASA in 19 '63 at Seal Beach, '64. And I told Clay Davis, I told him about Roswell. And his dad worked under Atwood, who was the vice president of North American at that time, Clay Davis Jr., and he was a senior engineer in development. So I told Clay, I said, up there at Roswell, I know that was a real ship that crashed, and I know that there were bodies and they were examined and confiscated by the government. And so Clay, he didn't believe me. He's a real smart young engineer, hot head. So he went home and told his dad.
And most people would not believe you at that time,
No, they would not believe me. But Clay went back and told his dad, who was a director under Atwood, who was vice president of North American Rockwell, and that was a big position in those days. And his comments, Clay Sr. says, yeah, Fred Bell's telling you the truth. I was one of the 18 specialists that went out there, and I saw those bodies. And he said we had one guy was a dentist, one guy was a this and that, and he named all the things off. And he was one of the technical guys representing Rockwell, because Rockwell, of course, was contracting, everything from the Super Sabres to the P-51. So they were heavily involved with Rockwell in the government. And he said, so Clay Jr. comes back the next day. And he says, I apologize. He says, Fred, he says, my dad verified what you said. You're not a nut anymore. And I had a completely different relationship with this kid for the rest of our lives, even now. So.
Do you know if Rockwell got any instrumentation to try to do some reverse engineering?
I'm sure they did. But, I was also an employee of Lockheed earlier. Actually, after that, I went to Lockheed for a little while. Kelly Johnson was, he was a homeboy from Ann Arbor. And Lockheed had the real heads up on that, because they were doing some advanced propulsion systems even before the reverse engineering stuff came along. So I'm very sure that Lockheed was probably one of the leaders in that. Rockwell was kind of Rockwell overall was pretty good. We built the F1 engines for the Saturn, which are 1 million pounds thrust out at San Jose in California and all those places. And Rockwell, Autonetics Division pioneered microcircuitry. But as far as alien technology, I didn't see them doing that much. I saw other companies doing more.
Let's talk about the key factors of the book, The Inside Track. Tell me about holograms, first of all, Fred.
Okay.
Explain how they